Tape's rolling for the Gnome Show.
Right now as we speak.
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 Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Down.
Now.
Down.
Now.
Down.
The Gnome Show.
Right now.
Welcome back to the Gnome Show. Special exclusive this episode, an interview with the original man behind the movie Men Who Stare at Goats. His character was played by Jeff Bridges. There was actually some interesting things going on with the military post-Vietnam, and that was what the movie was based on. So here's an interview with the original source of the Men Who Stare at Goats, Mr. Jim Channon, who lives on a 3-acre paradise on the big island of Hawaii. I know now that you're, sort of something of an enlightened being, and you have a group of people around you, and you have an eco-village where you're demonstrating how we should live in harmony with nature, and you've come a long way. But it's your history goes back, is very interesting. Now, it has to come up, and I know the listeners will be interested in this, the Men Who Stare at Goats. I mean, I like George Clooney, I think it's great, but
yeah,
it's a great movie. I love the movie.
Right.
And now, in fact, you are that man who created the concept of staring at ghosts. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say basically I was a poster boy for the Be-All-You-Can-Be Army.
This character.
They had the idea, but they didn't have any of the applications. So I wrote this manual.
The character that Jeff Bridges plays is based on you.
Yes.
Exactly. So I'm going to go look at this movie again now that I've met you.
Well,
so you wrote a manual.
Yes, and the manual had 125 pages, evolutionary breakthrough ideas for people, and especially soldiers. And here's this very digestible.
Was that the one?
That's it. Printed in 1978 by 4 generals in the Army who were trying to get the Army out of the box. They had come home in a counterinsurgency box, and they were facing a conventional war in Europe. And the guys were PO'd that nobody respected. They said, "We lost that war? We opened the gateway to India, buddy. Did you really see what we did? We did the block on the right side of the Chinese, and now people, tourists, educators finally have discovered that the East has a lesson called energy fields, which, by the way, is completely missing with people who are topologically overloaded with, with distracting words, which objectify everything." That was a lot of big words. I hope it was okay.
So in the movie, it seems like there's a psychedelic experiment going on or something like that. Was that, did I miss that? I mean, I haven't seen it for a couple of years.
Well, the thing the movie doted on that I really didn't have anything to do about at that time was remote viewing.
Yeah.
What I had to do about was giving the permissions of commanders in every part of the Army to explore at least 2 creative ideas a month and report those. And so the people in the intelligence game, having a hell of a time using what they call human intelligence, like you leave somebody for 20 years and eventually they can mop up the command post and copy the pictures on the board. That's such a... Did you get it? Was that too fast?
I can listen to it again. So
yes.
You
Okay.
can go as fast as you want.
Well, it used to be, in order to have a spy be in a place where they could record anything of a high level of intelligence, you had to leave them 20 years in place. Yeah. Well, information moves so much faster than that, and what they could copy on a given single board or photocopy with their little secret camera is just not as relevant as the tools we have now where you can read a newspaper from outer space. So that being a defunct way to collect human intelligence, the remote viewing team, where everybody's sitting in a safe environment and intuiting from the matrix what is out there, was a much more, intelligent option.
They didn't have any technology for that at the time, did they?
No,
were you trying to introduce this as a kind of a mystical technology or were you looking for hard tools?
Well, as you look in the manual, you'll see that there are ways that I demonstrated how energy moves in ways I demonstrated where to put the focus in your body, and I demonstrated ways that you can change your mind if you decide to. So I was giving a whole broad set of
Is that book? Sorry, I didn't want to. Is that book available?
Amazon.
It's on Amazon. What's the name of the book?
It's called Evolutionary Tactics.
Evolutionary Tactics.
The
by
First Earth Battalion Field Manual by Jim Channon.
Jim Channon, Evolutionary Tactics. It's a really interesting looking book. I definitely want a copy of that.
And this includes modern evolutionary activities like building a forest that can be seen from the air, and communicate something. So here are deals where I predicted American and Soviet communication and partnership in space 6 years before it happened, but that gave people in the Army a chance to understand that possibility as being real, especially the generals. And I trained 210 generals in the switch from national security to natural security. And I said, you take all the tools you have right now, and I had them in a room, and I want you to put them up on the board, and I want you to say, now your mission is to find and protect watersheds, to improve the quality of forests, plant forests in a day, and things like that. Go for it. Well, they didn't have time to get really into the detail, but they found out that 90% of the tools they have are, first of all, already paid for, and don't include bullets and guns, but trucks and weight navigate. You can put a blade on any tanks that there is, and it can move it, make a road. So they got the big idea, and they are now the one-star generals and in the Navy too, and in the British forces, and from 13 nations who know each other personally. That's a good thought, right? And have this a bit bigger understanding. So we have a political situation which is rooted in getting voted for by poor people or people who are disconnected from the world. So you're not going to get them to make that leap. So for my money, that's why the breakaway civilization broke away. They couldn't soothe their own conscience in the evening, knowing we could use 10 new technologies that would change the world.
But breakaway civilization, you mean people that start intentional communities or kind of opt out?
No. In the disclosure movement, they talk about a whole group of people that are getting paid with secret money for making spaceships that go to Mars right now and the moon, and they're using technology that would bankrupt the current capitalist world. But they're not stopping because they're making peace with entities in the galaxy. What more could we want? Hello?
Maybe this cycle goes on. It'd be a shame if we had to trash this planet and we could just keep it nice. And then we wouldn't have to build a spaceship and raft off somewhere else, or we could do that too.
Well, if we don't make it nice, the people who come to visit us won't have any respect for us. They won't make allies of us, and we won't be able to make allies of them. So we got to clean up our biosphere, re-establish our oceans, and act like grown-ups. Nations are obsolete by 40 to 60 years. It's not their fault. They're trying to do a good job with the old set of rules and get their paycheck every month. But darn it, they're fat, dumb, and lazy and incested. So the choice we can make is go back to the countryside, basically inhabit the watersheds, make small villages around them, become free of other people for our food, and engage the festival cultures at the full level of joy, which they have proven they know how to generate. Yeah. So it's not supposed to happen overnight. It's okay. I don't want people that are really older than me getting too worried about it. But I'm 76, and wow. I know.
That took me by surprise.
Well, I know what's going on in festival cultures because I've been to them, and a social architect lives inside of me who's capturing all the ways we can affiliate with each other. Cities are not so great anymore, but there was a time when coffee shops were really the only thing happening. Yeah. And so coffee shops in cities is a great social invention.
Like a place to meet,
And the same goes for the country. So we capture these old little bitty towns, put a couple of coffee shops in, and then we put music at night. We have 2 blocks in my town, and there are 3 bands playing on Friday night, and you can hear them all at the same time. And we have food from 7 different countries. So, see, we got the best of the open capitalist movement of capturing the world, but why? For trading purposes. And so we traded cultures as we went. And that's the secret to the future, is for the cultural trading to go on until we don't find an enemy out there. We find another opportunity, and we get our shopping back out.
It'd be great if there were no enemies out there, but, in a practical sense, there are people that just don't seem to have that level of evolution, that have a lot of frustration or anger, maybe don't like where they're living in their situation, whatever it is. So you still need some kind of a military force to maintain. Even in the States, you have to have some sort of like governance, with people, a strong arm that can be engaged when needed, I suppose, right?
Well, here's the deal. That's a good statement, but it's not quite as revealing as a statement called all the newspapers in America lost 30% of their subscribers in 3 months last year because the old world ain't doing it anymore. So let's not be the servant of the old world if we don't have to. And fortunately, the young kids have already recognized that. They don't, any of them watch NBC or none of them.
Right.
And there's no reason why the old people can't watch it if it soothes their understanding of what they went through. But we just don't need to homogenize the whole deal because they're different. We just let them eat different food and be there. Yes. Love them where they are. That's the old Chinese saying. But easy enough, by the way, to take all the ideas like love of nature, close community, festival life, fresh food, joy, and treating each other like dear friends and helping each other along. They can all be put in 3 acres like I've done. And it doesn't mean you go to sleep. There's plenty of humanity that must come to bear to hear people's older stories, to help them through their older stories, like ahimsa, I think, in many ways. I've done that. And I know that it's possible, and it's also a management chore at some level, and occasionally a godfather chore, and you put that together with all the new scientific breakthroughs that, like gravity is an option these days, and all the things they've discovered in the space program, by the way, run by a Navy admiral. I trust that Navy admirals, because of the way they're encultured, and we just listened to a song that they're encultured with, have our best interest in mind. And they know better than to take a older culture that was run over at high speed by technology and expected to accept that you can go to Mars in 3 hours. So they just rather not mention it because it would just screw the works up. Let's just say some wise people with responsibility don't have to tell everybody how it is.
That's right.
I think that's been true.
No, if you're going to do something of significance, you don't broadcast it before you've done it. You just get it done, and then when it's ready to roll, then people find out.
Yeah, Bucky Fuller, I know is a champion of yours. He said, on all the stuff I've written, there's 57 plastic bins in the Stanford archives, which nobody reads. But I had to make stuff, so I made a geodesic dome and a Dymaxion car and a Dymaxion map, and I know that's what will survive me.
I have a book, I'm not sure if it's by him or about him, but it's lots of pictures of him showing you what he's done, the domes and everything. And without that, like you say, unless you're manifesting something, you're a wizard in name only. You've got to create stuff.
Now, if you want to check the range of your intelligence, then start to read the books. Because one page will stop you dead. He said, universe is everything else and plus me. That was the first definition. The 37th definition of universe was a page and a half of an amalgam of dynamic alternative shift, shift clutches, power centers. He just went on mechanically, as an engineer would, with everything that operates the bigger mechanism. Don't introduce that to a sixth grade teacher. She'll have a breakdown. By the way, if you teach her a few principles in art, she'll have just as much of a breakdown. What the school system did is it started out with a Bible and a covered wagon in America, so that means everything that was taught was words. Yeah. So the ones that did the best with words became teachers, and they kept teaching words with words and never knew the difference. And by the way, it supported the industrial culture, which is all we had of any note after World War II. Yeah. So on it went. Yeah, except we still know that Disney and James Cameron and all those guys got way bigger brains than the guy at the pump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And happily, they get a chance every now and then. Unfortunately, Hollywood's being paid to explain our movement into space, and they're all really seriously. They start the whole show, each show, with this music, which is the Pall of Doom. I had a heart attack once, and I know what that is. And they make that sound, and then they tell you in a meager way 2 things in an hour that have anything to do with what's been discovered. The rest of it all is, what if happens? What happens if this happens? I'm a father. I don't want this for my children. It's sick, but maybe necessary.
A lot of newspaper articles.
Other people's ideas about what I did.
Yeah, things you've been in magazines.
Yeah, here's what Jeff Bridges said about me.
Yeah.
It's not everyone who interviews 2,000 global leaders to create a series of positive visions for planet Earth. He has trained more than 100 future generals from 9 nations in the exercise called Operation Noble Steward to launch the best way to have the militaries of the world recover the biosphere. He has recommended 20 green shifts for our corporate giants. He lives in a sustainable eco-homestead of his own design. He created the strategic visioning process for Fortune 100 companies that included beginning with their higher purpose. And by the way, they said they didn't want one. They never said that. No, they said, let's get one. The first Earth Battalion mythology is his, which is spreading a practical kind of consciousness over the planet, and his evolutionary tactics manual has taken to the streets. Jeff says he is my strategic visionary of choice.
Cool. Jeff Bridges endorses that Marshall Plan for Planet Earth. I saw John Ronson in there. I'm a fan of his. I think he's great. He's from my neck of the woods.
He is. Okay. Here he's coming up. Right here, I think.
Amongst others, John Ronson. So
he wrote The Men Who Stare at Goats.
That was a book. So he wrote.
Yes, and it was okay. And typically, John stumbles forward and mumbles sort of about what he's seeing, and at the same time, he's always promising to give you a little bit more. Like all those conspiracy theorist people, they're all suckers out there. Almost everybody wants to go for that. But bless John's heart, what has to happen for change to happen is all the pieces of the old world need to fall apart. Yeah. Then we go about picking up the pieces and putting them together in a new way. So he created a book which showed from my field manual, say 80 technologies that I was recommending for soldiers. And then the writer of the movie said, oh gosh, now I need to have somebody find all these things. So I'll make a young reporter, Ewan McGregor, and I'll make somebody like Jim, who now has a beard because I visited him, and Jeff is, friendly like Jim is. And then they need, Clooney found it, the screenplay at Cannes. It was the best unproduced screenplay ever written, he said. Or no, they got an award for that. He bought it himself. Oh. Then the BBC somehow got back in control of it. I wouldn't say who and the other BBC, but I think in some senses they were trying to defame my work. So they made sight gags and jokes out of about half of it.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was the secret in getting regular people to swallow any of it.
You got to have a name like George Clooney, and
Yes.
you got to make it light. It was pretty funny. I mean, they did. It was very entertaining.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was because I think we knew that there was. It was based on sort of real things that it made it more interesting, at least for me.
Yeah. Well, and of course, in the movie, I end up being old, fat, drunk, and fired, and but Ewan McGregor goes through the wall. So, and that's who I want the hero to be: the young people who understand how much more they can be.
Right. Yeah, I remember that now that you mention it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was a blessing. I was so reticent to sign the papers when I read the screenplay that was sent to me.
You had to sign something, sign off on.
Yes, complete release for any kind of slander for the future. But I talked them into making a video about the real men, and they made that, kind of buried it.
Like a documentary? Did they put it with a double edition CD, DVD, or something?
It was very hidden inside the DVD, but it's
like
the
those trailers or outtakes.
It's called Goats Declassified.
Oh, right.
And if there's one thing your viewers or listeners go to YouTube, Goats Declassified, and you can hear the real guys talking about it.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I can't help but ask you, did when you signed the release, did they cut you a check or anything?
No.
Well, that's not fair.
No, they said, if you don't like this, we're not going to make the movie. And I went, ooh, that would be a disservice.
Better have the story told, whether it's 100% accurate or not.
I'll take the hits. They can throw the mud balls at me, but there were so many people that were courageously doing this, including the U.S. Army, way ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. The Army was consulted. They said they gave the go-ahead?
They didn't have a choice. It wasn't a movie about the Army, in a way. Not a real movie. It was meant to be a parody.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But, perfect. Bless Ronson's a little hard.
He's all right. I think I met him when I was in a band in Manchester,
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure.
Well, he gets around.
Yeah, he was probably a journalist back then. And he might have done
He still
something
thinks he is.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
His radio stuff's pretty good.
And anything where he can find some mysterious and slightly sticky fluid sticking out, he will go and report on it in his own stumbling way, I'm sorry to bother you, because I moved this ICBM missile and talk to you for the rest of the program. Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
Yeah. That's cool.
And he said nice things about me.
Yeah.
Basically.
He seems nice, I like him. Was an inspiration for you, Jim?
Personal friend.
Right, you knew him.
But I can call him Bucky and not be embarrassed. Most people say, you better call him Mr. Fuller.
Yeah.
Yes, but no, we did two TV shows together and sat, probably for 3 or 4 hours. And he told me I was a genius, and I went, okay, that's the last place I need to check. Well, and of course, genius is really, in many ways, just an omnivore.
Yeah.
I was in first grade in a British school in Greece, and I was faced with and loved kids from 12 different nationalities. Okay, we couldn't speak each other's verbal language, so everything in the domain of arm and hand signals and tone of voice and posture and all became part of my understanding. And then here I am 50 countries later, having visited and traveled 81 times around the planet in air miles, and I would say consciously understand 100 cultures from mingling with them. I'm just a genius in comparison to people who didn't have such good fortune.
I think you have to be open-minded, though, to allow those experiences to happen, and maybe also somewhat detached, not pursuing solid material goals in a way.
Well, part of what I had to do early on was become a verbal and a graphic communicator.
Yeah.
So everything I record and see, I put in visual language.
Yeah.
There is my memory secret. And then the other secret is if I can see all the pieces in one place, then I can move them about in my mind. And that's the secret to having an imagination. It's connecting very obvious things with other things in different ways, and then actually being able to show a diagram to somebody who can make it.
So that's interesting. I'm interested in nonverbal communication because of my interest in animals and animal welfare. So I think that, one of the lines in one of my songs, which I think is a reasonable song with the Hall of Eternal Fame, has this line, something about they can communicate with us without words.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a guy tell me a while back when I said I was working on my third eye, he said, "Dummy, that's your first eye. The other two are just security lights." And so that third eye, which means total presence, is the way that I can receive another total presence and therefore be empathic or telepathic naturally.
Yeah.
And then leading foot soldiers through the jungle in Vietnam for 319 days, I became stealthy as a primary requirement, but I noticed my soldiers were all reacting in different ways to what was coming up. And I just started asking him. I said, "Johnson, why is that funny look of death on your face?" He said, "I don't know, sir, but it's about 200 meters up there." Now I knew, I have a radar guy, and he knows when something bad in the future time is about to happen, and I can send two little weasels out to find out what's up there before we stumble into
you were
it.
a captain in Vietnam?
A lieutenant, a commander of a platoon, 65 airborne infantry.
Drafted?
Oh, no, I was an officer. Yes, my father was an officer.
Artesia Eco Village. I mean, I love the concept because, at Mystic Valley we have we've got a couple of guys that live there, and we try to make stuff. And one of the guys just built a little cabin for himself. He's living off the grid pretty much, and kind of an inspiration. We don't have the same. We can grow a summer crop of squash and vegetables. We don't have the same facility. You've got coconuts, bananas, papaya, the works here, right? But you also have people living here. I mean, you're inviting people to communicate with you.
We have between 12 and 15 people. A third of them are occupying more permanent little houses. Less than a third are occupying mobile houses, which can be lifted by crane. And then probably the other 40% is in nomadic structures, which are like polycentric and polycultural things you might find in Asia, in the jungle, including teepees, 3 teepees. And we're all exploring how interesting and life force giving it is to live in a thin membrane instead of a box. Boxes and windows can kill the air pretty fast. So we're paying attention to how you're going to have half your life in a room which is open to nature, and close it with doors or screens or what you may need. But I would say there are 100 concepts in this 3 acres that would be boring for me to report on, but they involve peace, which is a very obscure set of rules. You don't find too many people anywhere with a PhD in peace. They have peace studies, which involves how we could have not done the last bunch of wars. But they don't know that meditation is a secret to peace.
So you have a meditation thing? Are you guiding people?
We have
a simple thing that people...
12 things that we do with breath and meditation and Tai Chi dance and ecstatic dance. How much time you spend indoors, how much time you spend in the sun, how much time you breathe a plant, how many root crops do you eat, all those kinds of
things. So you're
things.
teaching people. So if I had a month or two and I could afford a plane ticket to Hawaii, I could come over here and contribute a little and get education in...
That would have been true last year. Right now, the whole land is so full of the solution, there's no place for more people to play. So I just call it the back lot for my movie studio. So everybody can consume this in videos that go out. And I have a website called thecyberversity.wix.com.
So people can understand and take on this information.
24-hour course for free.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and more coming.
Yeah.
Meaning the videos will be better and better and better and be loaded onto that. So that's what we refer to as the real cyberversity with extension programs. Yeah. That model means the people who now live here are not only naturalists, but they are technology freaks. We have hacker-level technology people here. So we can make a Hollywood-looking movie in 3 days with the original music and all the background, which is already here, and awaken the characters who can play the part. They're not a singular kind of society. They're not a one-trick pony culture. They're multiversal people here, too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and you just get more multiversal. You don't get less. I have 68 skills for which I can receive a professional wage, and that's how it goes. So now those are combined together with graphic language, and I can have an imagination that is 6 times bigger than the average bear. Yeah, because it's all plotted, and I can take you to one of those 22-foot screens to look at and see what my buffet table for thinking is like.
What kind of manifest? Yeah, this looks to me like a sort of 3D, like a manifestation of a thought process in a sense, and looks fantastic. Nice paths and lots of beautiful foliage, lovely gardens.
Yes, and I'm just walking a few feet away from you, so I can show you that the brain. Oh,
there's a map. Yeah, yes. Peace, plenty, and play.
Yes.
Artesia. So this is that's kind of like the lot then.
Yeah, this is like an aerial view of 3 acres with old and regular things like service road, entry road, entrance, places to stop and view, gardens, forests, orchards. Small houses, big houses, nomadic houses, and now this is drawing number 8. So this is dealing with mythology. So how do we take this magic land, create a magic culture, and tell a story about it and give it a name? Right now I'm working with the idea that we're 70% ocean on the planet, so we should be called Oceania. And the people who live in Oceania and always have been are the voyaging societies. The world was integrated by people with boats and stuff to trade. Then trains and planes with stuff to trade, and now internet with stuff to trade. So it's the people who meet each other and trade stuff, and that requires a value understanding of what's valuable on both sides. Now lots of people are pocketed in between all that who think they're cowboys or Southern gentlemen or whatever it is, but those are old stories. They're fading.
So very good. All right. So looking for a brighter and better future, and pleased to meet you. And so if you Gnome Show people out there, you might be able to visit, but the place is full already, which is a shame because it's kind of a paradise. But I'm also looking out here. I can see the island of Maui over there in the distance. That's just amazing.
10,000-foot volcano over there with a male top and a female right arm.
Wow. Yeah. How far is that?
22 miles.
22 miles.
Which is $75 by biplane and takes 18 minutes. But if you go commercially, it'll take you almost a day and cost you about $200.
You're going to go all the way to Kona.
But I see it every minute I stand up, so it'll always be there.
Yeah.
So view planes, that's why this whole property may be full of food forest and edible landscaping, but never to the extent of wiping out the sun above you. Permaculture sometimes, covers the ceiling and the sun can't get in.
Right.
That's not true here.
Yeah. It's beautiful, lots of flowers and everything. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for letting us come and talk to you.
Well, as Captain Planet said, go planet. And I had something to do with that show.
Doesn't surprise me.
The Gnome Show is produced by Jeremy Himsa in association with Flying Mountain Records and Mystic Valley Festival.